On today's show, Houston Rockets 2026 New Year's resolution: shoot more threes, commit fewer turnovers, and more. It's all coming up right here at Locked On Rockets.
This is Mission Control, Houston.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Happy New Year. Welcome to 2026 and welcome to another edition of Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now the number one sports podcast network. As always, I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, native Houstonian and credentialed media member. Be sure to follow along wherever you listen to your podcasts or on YouTube. Just search Locked On Rockets. On today's show, we're getting into our Rockets 2026 New Year's resolutions, things that we would like to see from this Rockets team in 2026, ways that this team can improve, goals for this team throughout the season, and more. We're going to get to all of that on today's show. Of course, want to thank you so much for making Locked On Rockets part of your day here on the first day of the year, part of your day every single day, whether it's on your way to work, on your lunch break, in the gym. Thank you so much for being an every single dayer. And joining us now is your weekly co-host, host of the B Block podcast and Sports Radio 610's Brandon Scott, who you can track down on Twitter at Brandon K. Scott. Brandon, Happy New Year. Happy 2026 to you and yours. Are you excited to get this year underway, man?
Man, I'm so excited. I'm one of those who, like, since I'm a parent, I like to get Christmas out of the way. Like, my favorite part about Christmas is actually December 26th, but I'm all about New Year's because New Year's to me is more of an adult holiday, not just for going out and hanging out, but kind of just re-racking the year in your life and kind of setting forward what you want the year to look like, which is what we're going to do here with the Rockets. So I'm really looking forward to the new year, man.
Absolutely. We're going to lay out our Rockets New Year's resolutions for 2026. We got a bunch of good ones lined up here. Some things that hopefully we can see this team improve upon, fix, new year, new me, new year, new us, maybe with this Rockets team. Hopefully no LaMelo Ball, right? The new year, new me, same me though, right? Like none of that. All right, let's go ahead. We're gonna go back and forth here. We're gonna share some of our Rockets resolutions, things that we've come up with for this Houston Rockets team here in 2026, things that we'd like to see out of them, and then we'll get to some of the ones that you, our dear listeners, suggested for us a little bit later on in the program. So, B. Scott, why don't you tee us off here? What do you want to see out of this Rockets team in 2026?
Yeah, and I feel like this is one that a lot of us will have in common, or that many Rockets fans will have in common, especially those of us that watch every game. Can they shoot more threes? And look, I want to preface it by saying this. I credit the Rockets for their shot selection. I credit them for their efficiency with shooting the threes. I think it's cool that they're among the top in percentage and also among the bottom in attempts. Okay, so that to me, that tells me that they're being judicious, and the shot selection overall, specifically when it comes to threes, is pretty good. That being said, I also feel like they are a good enough shooting team, and this would be the dilemma: is if you didn't think, and I wouldn't say this, if I didn't think they could shoot threes, like more threes, and still shoot at a pretty high clip, at a pretty high percentage, then I wouldn't suggest that they do it, because I wouldn't want them to lean into something that I don't think that they do well. But they've got shooters now. They've got floor spacers. This was the kind of the beauty of the offseason and the way that they built this team. They've got more of that. And so I think that they could lean more into it and still shoot it at a relatively high clip. So if I'm going to start off with one thing, it is, and this is to me, a little bit of nitpicky, but also just noteworthy, especially after you finish a game and you're like, man, did they shoot 22 threes? Like they could have gotten a few more than that. Right. Kevin Durant's on the team. Tari Eason was a machine. I know he's back now. He was a machine to start the year from three. Obviously, Reed Shepherd is playing heavy minutes. And of course, Jabari Smith Jr. is shooting threes and is, shooting them well, but I wouldn't mind if he's
having a career year from three as well. Yeah.
Exactly. Having a career year. I wouldn't mind leaning more into that. So I would just say, shoot threes. Shoot more threes.
It's funny. I will co-sign this 1,000% with you because I feel the exact same way. And it's funny because it does feel a little nitpicky because the Rockets do on paper have the second best offense in the NBA behind only the Denver Nuggets currently. Nuggets have a 123.9 offensive rating. Rockets have a 121.5 offensive rating. Per NBA.com. I'm not using cleaning the glass to filter out garbage time. Sorry, guys. I probably should have, but anyways, I digress. To the point of the actual 3-point numbers, right? They're the second best 3-point shooting team in the NBA right now, 39.9% from downtown, well above league average. Only the Nuggets are better than them at 40.6. And so I agree with what you said. And when you look at the actual numbers for like the sheer volume of it, they are dead last in attempts per game at just 30.1. And to put that, to compare and contrast here a little bit, the middle of the pack team are the Milwaukee Bucks. And they're 15th in the association. They shoot 37.3 threes per game. So about almost 7.5 more than the Rockets do. And then the number one 3-point shooting team in the association is the Golden State Warriors at 43.7. So about almost 14 more threes per game from the Warriors than the Rockets. And so I agree with you, right? The sentiment of if we didn't think they weren't good at it, we wouldn't ask them to do more of it. And so I do think that this is something that hopefully in 2026, we see them scale those numbers up a little bit. Nothing drastic. We don't need them to start bombing, 45, 50 attempts a game. Nobody's asking them to be the Harden and MDA Rockets that was just trying to out volume the opposing teams. But they do have good shooters. And I think the process by which they generate their threes has been really encouraging. And so if you can just ramp up the process a little bit or get, more of those high quality attempts, the corner threes that they've been prioritizing, some of those, then I fully agree with you, man. I think the 3-point shooting needs to level up a little bit here. For me, I'm going to take it I'm going to stick with a statistical category, but I'm going to take it in a different direction, a slightly less positive direction. They need to clean up the turnovers. Yeah. The turnovers have been, it has been this team's Achilles heel. We knew it the moment Fred VanVleet went down. We knew it would be a struggle, that there would be a lot of growing pains for this team handling and managing their turnovers. Right now, though, they are the second to last in the NBA in turnovers per game. They commit 16.3 turnovers per contest. Only the Blazers commit more turnovers at 17.2. And weirdly enough, I mean, there are some other competitive quote unquote teams here at the bottom. Like the Warriors have always been a high turnover team under Steve Kerr. The Clippers are a high turnover team this season. The Suns, high turnover team. The Pistons, surprisingly, number one team in the East. They're a bottom 10 team in turnovers. But, and I don't know what the necessary, I don't know what the quick fix is for that. I think some of it is just at times sloppy play. There's some passes that KD makes where I'm just come on, Kevin, you're a future first ballot Hall of Famer. You shouldn't be making that lazy cross-court pass with one arm that the defense can read coming a mile away, things like that. So I think it's just a little bit of attention to detail, a little bit of continuing to build chemistry with one another, but just please, just if they can cut down on the turnovers even by a little bit, if they could just get to middle of the pack on turnovers instead of being second to last, that would be a gigantic monumental improvement.
Yeah. And it's a huge source of what ails them against the teams that they lose to. It's whenever the Rockets are not playing well, and we should be clear about this, they've by and large played well. Okay. They're a very good basketball team. But when they're not, in the occasions when they are not, and when they're not playing well, the thing that we are all always lamenting together is the turnovers, right? It's these sloppy passes. It's sometimes some loose ball handling, but it's more so the passing. The ball handling thing is something that maybe you could attribute to them not having the traditional point guard or somebody, the traditional ball handler and a person to kind of get them, set into their offense. But yeah, no, I think I don't think that that's a good enough excuse for some of the sloppy passes that they have. It's, for me, and I've talked about this on the B Block podcast, is just their lack of focus at times, is a little bit alarming. And I think we'll get into some of this a little bit deeper in some of the other New Year's resolutions. But that's one of the places where it shows up. It's hey, man, you don't have to make, what you're talking about, you don't have to make that one-arm cross-court pass or, just be a little bit, as judicious as you are with 3-point shots, be that way with your passing. the way you are with your 3-point shot selection, maybe take a few more of those. But as conservative as you are with that, be more so with the passes that you decide to make. I'm with.
Let's channel those would-be turnovers into more 3-pointers. I think that's a recipe for success for 2026 here. Coming up, we're going to keep chugging along and getting into more of our Rockets New Year's resolutions. We're going to get there in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. During basketball season, there's nothing like being in the building, the energy, the crowd, the first big run that gets everyone on their feet. Fans want to be there for those moments, not stuck refreshing screens or guessing what tickets are actually going to cost. That's where Game Time comes in. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage back, making it incredibly easy to score amazing tickets fast, simple, and without the guesswork. Browsing the Game Time app is straightforward and intuitive. Finding tickets takes just a few taps. Prices include the fees up front. It's fully transparent, so the total is clear from the start. Whether it's an NBA game or another live event, everything is right there in one place. So take the guesswork out of buying your tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today and get in on the action. And continuing on here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast, home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. Remember, the best way to help us grow the show is to listen every single day on a podcast platform of your choosing, and then like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. The comments help us out a ton. We want to know your Rockets 2026 New Year's resolutions. Let us know your resolutions for this Houston Rockets team in the comment section below. B. Scott, hit us with your next Rockets resolution.
Can they stop playing down to the competition? Like whatever it takes,
real.
Whatever, either Ime Udoka or if they got to find it within themselves, I don't really care. But to figure out how it is that we can get up against lesser opponents or get up for lesser opponents, the Rockets themselves need to say that to themselves and say, hey, it's not good enough to just think we can roll out the ball and play and beat the Pelicans of the world, who are not a great team but are scrappy, got some young players that are promising. And we'll beat you. Like even the bad teams, and I don't feel like I got to tell them this, but let's just say it out loud. Even the bad teams in the NBA will beat you if you do not bring it. The worst NBA, whoever you think is the worst NBA team that you can think of all time in your mind, you don't bring it, they're capable of beating you. And so that stretch there, it was really.
I just want to, as a side note, it's definitely one of those like 07, 08 Bobcats teams. I'm just pointing it out right now. It's those teams were real rough around the edges, man.
Yeah, not to derail us, but Nick Young was going at Steven Jackson about something, one of these, athlete podcast beefs or whatever. And he just kept going on and about how he played for the Bobcats. He's like, man, that's where they send people. The Bobcats, that's where they send people who can't play no more, man, when they want to forget about you. But anyway, so yes, I'm with you. So I digress on that point. But to the point, though, the month of December, let's just talk about that for a second, Jackson. Until recently, until Christmas, basically, and now that they're on this winning streak, an unforgiving month for them. And it starts with them losing the back end of the back-to-back against Utah, and then you see a tendency here, a pattern here, we were all here for it, where they're losing to teams like Utah, the Pelicans, just a little while ago, the Kings and the Clippers, right? And I think it was after that Kings game when it was Ime Udoka who said, hey, I've got to do a better job of getting them up for these lesser opponents, which I thought was just like, yo, that's borderline offensive because y'all got a hell of an opportunity here. Go out there and handle business against it. The West is hard enough. There are enough good teams that you definitely got to bring it for to not be out here just kind of going through the motions against the Pelicans and the Kings of the world. So don't do that. Don't do that anymore.
I love that one. No, that's a fantastic point. I will say, I do think that kind of organically, right, the returns of Tari Eason, who was out due to the oblique strain, getting DFS in the lineup and healthy, those are two guys that I think this Rockets team has. They've lacked a little bit of like the intensity and kind of the fire that last year's team had, right? Because you have guys like Dylan Brooks, Jalen Green, some really fiery personalities. Fred VanVleet, obviously, who's an incredibly fiery, demonstrative kind of leader out there on the floor. And so missing all three of those guys, right, who are really, big parts of kind of the culture that this Rockets team had kind of built under Ime Udoka, some of that was missing. And I think that Tari is a guy that certainly provides some of that with the chaos that he plays with the energy and enthusiasm and just the love for the game that you see every possession that he's out there. He's always playing at 110% when he's on the floor. And then DFS is another. He's very vocal. He's a communicator. He's constantly yelling when he's on the court. And he's a dog, right? Like Tari said it the other day after the win in LA on Christmas Day, talking about trying to get some of that dog mentality back in the team, right? And trying to, light that fire. And I think that Tari can absolutely be that kind of emotional leader for this Rockets team to help them get up for every opponent that they play for, not just the big matchups. So I love that. I love that call out by you. I'm going for my next resolution. Now that they have Tari and DFS back, kind of piggybacking off of that point, please, can we just be done with the bad spacing lineups? Like they were running them by necessity because Ime was pretty consistently trying to juggle lineups where you had ill-fitting players, you had multiple non-spacing players sharing the court together. Sometimes you'd have as many as 3 or even 4 non-shooting threats on the floor at the same time. And you'd watch the opposing defense just collapse into the paint, crowding players, crowding, KD, Sengun, whoever it was. And it led to some really ugly offense. It's a damn miracle, Brandon, that the team is still ranked number 2 in offensive rating this season, despite just how bad it's looked for so much of the year. Like, I know that it feels like we were kind of being nitpicky about the volume of threes and stuff, but that's why it feels like such low-hanging fruit, because it's like they're number 2 and it still hasn't felt really crisp or clean or like the beautiful game Spurs or any of that stuff, right? It's felt like it's been pulling teeth for so much of the season, which makes me think it could be so much better, and it still can. There's so much room to improve. And I do think that over these last handful of games, really since the debut of DFS on Christmas Day, right, having another shooter out there, a guy that defenses respect, that they won't help off of, having Tari back out there, he's been a sniper, right? And the added intensity that they provide defensively, but then also just on offense, you see all the space that KD is working with over these last few games. And some of that has to do with them not running the double big lineups over these last few games because of the absence of Alperen and Sengun, and they're not going to run Adams Capela double big lineups. And I actually, hopefully, right? I had these numbers here, and I was very curious because by the eye test, I was like, what does this actually look like? In the minutes where Alperen Sengun, Steven Adams, and Ime Thompson have all shared the floor this season, so they're 3-man lineup data, they only have a net rating in about 207 minutes. So it's kind of a small sample size, but at least, it's what we have to work with. They only have a net rating of 4.54. So it's still positive. They're not losing those minutes, but they're not winning them by a substantial margin, right? You'd want the difference in that net rating lineup to be substantially better than just 4.5. Every other iteration, if you pick any 2 of those 3 guys and put them on the floor, the net ratings all look great. They get substantially better. If it's just Alperen Sengun and Ime Thompson, plus 11.2. If it's Steven Adams and Ime Thompson, that's where it gets absurd. It's plus 33.5 because Adams' net rating has been absurd this season. And then even just the Alperen Sengun and Steven Adams, the double big lineup, when Ime Thompson isn't on the floor, plus 8.58. So almost double what it is when the trio of them share the floor. And it's when that trio is on the floor, or any combination thereof, including Josh Okogie or Jayshawn Tate or whatever, Clint Capela instead of Steven Adams in some of these lineups. When you have 3 or sometimes 4 non-shooting players on the court, it just crowds everything. And thankfully with Tari back and DFS back, feels like we can finally, hopefully, get away from those lineups in totality.
It not only crowds everything, even when it's not crowding anything. And you and I have sat next to each other at Toyota Center and noticed this exact thing and talked about this exact thing in person at the games. It's not even just the crowding. It's, for me, sometimes it's they'll try to space the floor, and then it just becomes a defensive strategy to bait Ime Thompson into taking threes that he shouldn't take. Yeah. And so it's either one or 2 things. It's the crowded, poor spacing that you're talking about, or it's de facto poor spacing because they're baiting you into taking a shot. And we were talking about early in the show about wanting to see more threes. I don't necessarily want to see more threes from Ime Thompson, though. That to me feels like a defensive strategy that the Rockets have played right into because of these lineups. And to his credit, because of the young man's sheer confidence, he is not deterred. It does not seem like from still taking that shot. And
what do you say? What do you say on media day? I definitely do not give a F about with his confidence.
At the direction of whom? You talk about the dog. At the direction of DFS. Like DFS is the one who got up there first and said, "Man, I just told him he got to not give a F," and he's like, "Yeah, he did say that." So and now we're seeing it, But I will say this too, though, about the space and lineups. I was, we're adults now, and so Christmas gifts and whatever, it's cool to get them. If you don't get them, it's whatever. You kind of buy whatever you want. But I felt like one of my Christmas gifts as a Rockets fan was this sudden return of both return of / debut of Tari, Eason, and DFS. So like that was something that I was really looking forward to and was probably more excited about that than any gift that I actually got on Christmas. No offense to anybody that got me gifts on Christmas.
It certainly felt like a bit of a Christmas miracle to get DFS back and watch him debut. And I know that debut, there were people who were like, man, he was just out there doing cardio on Christmas Day. Look, the man's missed half the season already. Give him time to like ramp up. Okay. He needs a little time.
I'm just glad to know that he's real. I knew he was real because he played for the Mavs and he played for the Lakers and we knew who he was. But as far as a Rocket, is he real?
I was worried they were going to try to weekend at Bernie's him at one point, just prop him up on the bench and just be like, throw some sunglasses on him and be like, he's all right, guys. You're good.
I'm glad
honestly, he's been such a welcome addition and you see how he fits the culture so perfectly. I will say on the point of, before we move on the point of Ime Thompson shooting threes, I wholeheartedly agree with you 100%. I will say, I would like to see him get back to just prioritizing those corner threes though, right? Because he got up to a point last season where he was shooting like a respectable percentage on corner. I think he was up to like maybe 36 or 37% on corner threes. It's like the top of the key, above the break threes, the early shot clock threes, the ones that he takes when it feels like there's nothing else because it was by design, because the defense gave it up because they were like, nah, we're cool with you taking that shot. If he takes it though within the flow of the offense, if the Rockets break down the defense and then the right pass comes his way and he's the outlet in that corner spot and he's wide open, take those, because once you start making those with confidence, and if you can get to that 35, 36, maybe 40% range on wide open corner threes, that's going to unlock even more of his game to where defenses then have to start, Ime's in the corner. We can't completely ignore him, right? We got to treat him with a little bit of respect and be ready to close out. And once you have Ime Thompson attacking a defender trying to close out on him, that should be curtains at the end of the day.
Cancel Christmas at that point.
All right, coming up, we've got the rest of our Rockets resolutions to get through, as well as your resolutions that you had for us. We're going to get there in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel's making them even better. Every Friday night before the games tip off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action unfolds. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern have become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. Opening the FanDuel app during Happy Hour always brings something new, boosts, bonuses, and different surprises. It offers extra energy on Friday nights without overthinking the action. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. And final segment here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. All right, B. Scott, I've got two more like kind of quick hitter resolutions here that I wanted to get out the way before we get into the fan submitted ones. My first one, speaking of fans, this has been a gripe for a long time, and I don't know how many times. I'm pretty sure I've done this as a resolution before, but can we get some better fan attendance for one of the best teams in the NBA? Like, I'm just saying, like the lower bowl sometimes looks a little empty, and it's frustrating for a team that is as good as they are, right? Like it shouldn't happen for a team that's playing like a top 5 team in the association, for a team that has championship aspirations. I would hope that we could get a little bit better hometown support, right, in specifically the lower bowl of Toyota Center. So I don't know what needs to change. I don't know what needs to happen. I'm just going to say, if you have those lower bowl tickets, if you listen to this podcast and you have lower bowl tickets, please show up on time. Like if you're worried about, if you go to work and then you're like, I got to drive home and I got to change and shower, take your clothes to work, man. I used to work a day job and then go to Rockets games afterwards, way before I was credential media, whatever. Like I would take my clothes with me, took my jersey with me, and I would go straight from work, straight to Toyota Center and get there bright and early, right when they open the doors, an hour before tip off. If I could do it, I believe in you. You could do it too. I'm not going to lament the people with families and stuff, because that's tough, but
yeah, and I'm one of those people with families, and especially now as like a single dad. Like I understand how really difficult it can be, but I have reached a point where I think I can say I'm resigned to this now, because it's been like this for
I know.
It's been like this for too long, and it's like this across the board whenever a team is not like just coming off of a championship, like the Astros games, for example. No, this is a Rockets podcast, but we just look at the city in general.
Yeah,
we have not, at least for a long time, I'm in my mid-30s, for a long time and for as long as I can remember, we have just not been a great a sports attendance city. And it's like we can do this thing, whether we're talking about Toyota Center, whether we're talking about NRG, or before the Astros went on their run and how it was at that then Minute Maid Park. Like it's one thing we can say, hey, we need to fill the stands. But then if you haul off and call it a bad pro sports city, people will want to bite your head off. And it's like, yo, this is the stuff that I'm talking about. This is a great city. I'd rather be here than anywhere else on earth. But if you want to compare it to other places that root for their teams, we don't do a very good job of doing that, or at least creating the environment. Ask opposing teams, opposing players that come into Toyota Center, or even the football players that come into NRG Stadium. They do not feel like coming to Houston is just some big adversarial environment.
It's not a hostile environment.
It's not a hostile environment by any stretch of the imagination. And it would be nice to do both, to support your team and to make them feel like, to make the Rockets feel like, man, this crowd's really behind us. And then on the other side, to create that competitive advantage for the opponent to come in here and feel like, man, it is loud as hell. Am I still in OKC, or what? Like, what's going on here? And so I said I'm resigned to it, and then I just got real passionate about how badly I want them to do it. So, but I say that just to say you're preaching to the choir. I've been thinking this for a long time. Maybe 2026 is the year that it changes.
Maybe, hopefully, we will hopefully manifest it here on this very show. But my last one here, and this one I'm gonna leave it short and sweet. And I was careful when I chose my word. A successful playoff run. That's what I want. I don't know what it's going to look like, but just one that we can hopefully look back on and think that this was a successful season. Might not end with the hardware, but a successful playoff run is what I'm going to call it.
Can I ask you, because I like that one, but I do want to ask you, as somebody that studies it the way that you do, what is that to you? Like, just in your humble opinion, your honest opinion, what does success even look like? I feel like we've asked a version of this question on the podcast throughout the year. But as we learn more, get more data, more information, and learn more about the team, I'm trying to think about it myself. Like, what does success ultimately look like for the Houston Rockets in 2026?
I think that if you had asked me this question and if Fred VanVleet was healthy, the answer would look a lot different. I think right now the answer is ideally a deeper playoff run, right? You definitely don't want to get bounced in the first round, and realistically, you don't want to get bounced in the second round unless it's to one of the Thunder or the Nuggets. And ideally in that scenario, you want a competitive series against them, right? If they do wind up matching up with the Thunder or the Nuggets, who I think right now are the two teams that you can arguably say are ahead of the Rockets in the standings and quality wise, as far as team construction, all that. I'm not going to put the Spurs ahead of the Rockets yet. I know they're there in the standings. I'm not worried about the Lakers. Like, just, it's right now in my eyes, it's just Thunder and Nuggets ahead of the Rockets. So if you do match up with one of those teams and ultimately lose, what you don't want it to be is, a sweep or a gentleman's sweep. Or something. You want it a competitive series. You want a good 6 or ideally 7 game long series where you go toe to toe with the team that is, they were better than you. They beat you, but there's confidence that you could get there next year, especially with the continued growth of all the young guys, with the return of Fred VanVleet, all those kinds of things. So I think this year success looks a little bit different, but I have my eyes set on at minimum a Western Conference Finals run. But again, if you want more than that, you're likely going to have to go through OKC, and that is a tall task at this point with how good they've looked. So I think that's a reasonable barometer for success this season. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's spot on. I especially like the fact that you slid in there that you're not yet ready to put the Spurs over the Rockets, despite the fact that they look pretty damn good. They're impressive, but I don't know. I don't feel like they're ready to win a championship yet, and I could be wrong about that. But I'm just not ready to do it. I feel like the Rockets got way more proven stuff that makes sense, whereas the Spurs still feel like they're a year away. But I'm right there with you. A 6 or 7 game series that ultimately
6-7.
I did the joke without even meaning to. I'm surprised my kids haven't run in here and interrupted the podcast. Especially my 9-year-old daughter. She can't get enough of that.
I started saying it ironically, and now I'm doing it unironically. I hate it. This is how it always happens. That's how the adults grab hold of the slang and then ruin it for the youths.
Yeah, we are definitely at risk of doing that for sure. It's not, and I don't hate it as long as the kids keep it and we don't try to adopt it. I think it's for the kids. Let them have fun. It's harmless fun, but we should not be participating, even though I sit up here and did this on your show. So, all right, but yeah, I'm right there with you though.
Let's get to some of the listener submissions for Rockets New Year's resolutions for 2026. First one here from Red Nation Blogger. Shout out to my guy Bryson. Be a guest on LOR, of course. Bryson, we're gonna get this figured out. I got you, my guy. I've been dragging my feet on this, so that is I am sending you an apology on the pod to your face, to your ears. We're gonna get it figured out, man. We're gonna get you on here. Let's go to our next one here. Chris Gorman, get a follow from Vanessa R. I don't know if that's something great to aspire to. We should all want to be followed by Vanessa. She does amazing work for the Houston Rockets. So Chris, yeah. I wish you the best of luck in your journey, in your pursuit of this endeavor.
Yes, right there with you. And not to rub it in, but I am one who is honored to be followed by Vanessa. Humble beginnings. Me and Vanessa know, it ain't always been like this. But man, I'm so happy to see her success, man. So
right, the work with ESPN, and she does so much fantastic work with the Rockets, and I just hope that they don't lose her. Right, that's my thing. Is just be with the Rockets, because the trio between Craig, Ryan, and Vanessa, they do such incredible work. The Rockets truly, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, and in other fan bases can attest, because you see other fan bases give the Rockets broadcast team their props. They have one of the best broadcast teams in the entire series. I'm a top 2, and they're not 2, Brandon. I'm going there.
Let's go. I support Craig, Ryan, and Vanessa enough to support that. Let's go. Let's do it. Three goats.
All right. From Will Upton, no more AI ads. Oh, whoever it is that was doing the AI ads during the Rockets game, what are we doing, man? That ad was so egregious. And thankfully, I haven't seen it in a minute. So maybe they did finally pull it. So that might have already happened pre-2026. But that one AI ad was so bad.
Yeah, it's bad when, and I guess we're reaching this point too, where now we're all savvy enough to be able to spot AI. Because I feel like there would have been a time where you just would have been confused. Like, what is that? That doesn't look quite right. But we weren't using the terms AI at the time. But yeah, when it's that bad, when you're like, man, I ain't even necessarily an expert in this, and I know that ain't real. And it was bad. There's actually AI ads that you could probably do better. So if they're gonna have AI ads, they need to be of higher quality. I'll say that.
That's fair, honestly. Yeah, and again, ethical use of AI, right? That's the thing. Yes. So. All right, we both co-sign that one. Will, great pull. No more AI ads. I love that one. All right, let's go from Bronson. More Steve-O and how he continuously elevates stars and teams everywhere he goes. I mean, we know the proof is in the pudding with Steven Adams. He's been absolutely fantastic at every stop in his career, and it's no different here with the Rockets. He does elevate this team. The struggle for the Rockets, right? And this is why the double big lineup was kind of born. And this goes back to what I was talking about with the spacing, right, in segment 2. is I do still think there are significant benefits to playing Alperen Sengun and Steven Adams side by side. You just need the right three guys alongside them is the problem. And so I do think that like Steve-O flat out, Steve-O makes life better and easier for LP. He makes life better for Kevin Durant. They have a great synergy together. But now that you have Tari and DFS and Jabari, guys that you can go to flesh out those other two spots, because obviously KD's in the mix, right? It's those final two spots. And unfortunately, right, we saw lineups with Josh Okogie. Look, Josh was fantastic and filled a much needed role and did an admirable job doing so. But teams didn't treat him as a floor spacer, right? They were content with letting Josh knock down, take attempts from three, even though he was shooting a respectable percentage doing it. So I agree with like more Adams minutes, but that's kind of the issue is like you can get maybe about 10 minutes per game with Adams and Sengun playing with each other, and then like 10 to 15 of him playing solo minutes, I guess. And that's about your cap. Like Adams is kind of artificially capped at like 25 minutes a game, unless you want to really run a heavy amount of double big.
Yeah. Well, and not just that, like you said a minute ago, it's the Ime Thompson part two.
Yeah.
So like how much is he not playing? And if the answer is going to be not a lot, like he's going to be on the floor a lot. So you're obviously not going to sacrifice Ime for Steven Adams, and so you're left with exactly what you just described, right? The either the double big or the or his solo minutes, but him, Steven Adams, Alperen Sengun, and Ime Thompson all on the floor together, especially now that there's no necessity for that. Now that you don't have to do that, you shouldn't do that, or you should do that as little as possible, as little as possible, if ever.
And for what it's worth, I was, touched on this a little bit recently in a recent pod, but, with the men, it's kind of felt like he's been, Ime's had to rely on him so much. He's been, really ratcheting up the minutes. We're talking, games where he's playing 37, 38, 39, 40 plus minutes, whatever. And for a min, if you can get his minutes back down to that 32, 33, 34 range, not that you don't want to play him as much, but his play style is so taxing and demanding with how intense he plays on both sides of the floor, the downhill pressure that he provides, the defensive intensity. And so for a min to be on his A game, if you reduce his minutes a little bit, if you get him down to like consistently 32, 33, that's 15 to 16 minutes a night where a min isn't on the floor. And if you run the double big lineups exclusively in those non-Ime Thompson minutes, that's where you could probably get a sizable like 10 to 15 minutes of Alperen Sengun and Steven Adams together without Ime Thompson out there, without the spacing being messed up. And so it's going to be up to Ime and the coaching side. Ime, if you're listening, you can hire me. But no, I kid. But seriously, like I'm sure this coaching staff has the data on it. And now that they have the bodies, the personnel, hopefully that's something we see more of moving forward, or I guess less of, whatever. I don't know. Just more double big, less triple non-shooters.
More or less better spacing.
There you go. Yeah.
And more Steve-O. I'm with our audience on that.
Oh man. And we are pressed up against the clock right now. I'm going to give a hat tip to this last one because honestly, this could be an entire episode worth of content. So Ron suggested for his New Year's resolution, trading for a vet guard, either a starter or a sixth man type. B. Scott and I could sit here for the next hour and debate that and talk about that and break down all the nuances behind that. So we're not going to do it on the New Year's resolution episode, but we will visit that topic on a future episode. We do appreciate you guys for submitting your Rockets resolutions. We want to hear all your resolutions for this team in the YouTube comments as well. B. Scott, it's been a pleasure. Happy 2026 to you. Do me a favor. Let everybody know where they can track you down at.
So the B Block Podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts and also available right here on YouTube. So check us out, the B Block Podcast on YouTube. I'm on there most days. So maybe not every day, but basically 5 days out of the week. And then, of course, Sports Radio 610 on Wednesdays at 4:40 and Fridays from 11 to noon. Check your boy out.
That's going to do it for the first edition of Locked On Rockets here in 2026. As always, thanks so much for checking out the show. Remember, the best way to help us grow the show is to listen every single day on a podcast platform of your choosing, and then like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And we look forward to having you back right here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball.